Hi there! Welcome to Pallet University. So, my set is slowly getting, dwindling down. That's because by this point, by the time you see this video, I'll probably either be packing or already on the road to my new city that I'm moving to for graduate school. So, just a little life update real quick there. But anyway, let's get on to this topic of the video. So, there are some, actually a lot, of spoilers from the most recent, at the time of recording, Pokemon Sword and Shield sort of trailer slash update. So if you are trying to stay not spoiled, there's your spoiler warning. The thumbnail already probably kind of gave some stuff away, but sorry. Still here? Good. Because today we're going to be talking about why Linoone evolves in the Galar region, but not any other region. So if you're not trying to remain spoiler-free, but you don't know what I'm talking about for some reason, among a couple, well, at least one other Pokemon, Zigzagoon and Linoone got Galarian forms, very similar to how a lot of Generation 1 Pokemon got Alolan Forms in Generation 7. However, there was one very big difference between all the Alola forms in Generation 7 and Galarian, Zigzagoon, and Linoone, in that Galarian Linoone evolves. Galarian Linoone evolves into a Pokemon called Obstagoon, which is basically a fifth member of the band Kiss. I really, really like its design. I wish its typing was different. And honestly, when I first saw the trailer, I was really mad when before they showed Obstagoon, when they first showed just Zigzagoon and Linoone, because I was like, oh, cool, normal dark. They're just basically copy-pasting what they did for Alolan, Rattata, and Raticate. But when they made it evolve, I got so hyped. And I got to thinking, what were the biological reasons why these, Linoone in particular, would evolve, but not normal Linoone that we've been used to since Generation 3. So before I get to the reason, I'm going to give you a little bit of a biology lesson. So, Pokemon evolution is really not evolution at all. Evolution, by its definition, takes generations to do. Evolution is the minor tweaks that give certain individuals an edge at reproducing. Whether that's, being able to gather more food so that you don't die of starvation. Whether it's being stronger so that you can fend off predators better. If it gives you a little bit of an edge, or even if it just is neutral, and you pass it on to your offspring, over time, all of those changes build up, and that's evolution. Individuals, and this is really important, do not evolve. Evolution is something that, by definition, has to happen over generations. What Pokemon does is much more similar to Metamorphosis. If you're like me, and probably most other American, third graders, you kept, some caterpillars in, a jar in, your science teacher's classroom, and, you watched them turn into butterflies. That's what we did anyway, I don't know. But there are many, many organisms that go through Metamorphosis. I'm very confident in saying that most animals go through Metamorphosis. The large majority of them do. Some kind of metamorphosis, whether it's complete metamorphosis, which is sort of like the typical larva, pupa, adult stage that you see in things like caterpillars, whether it's sort of an incomplete metamorphosis, which is something that you would see like tadpole to frog. That is still metamorphosis. So with all that explained, Pokemon evolution is much, much more like metamorphosis than it is to evolution. That's not to say that evolution doesn't still happen in the Pokemon world. As I understand it, it definitely does, because they talk about different species, and it was really interesting. If you go to Pokemon.com's page on, I believe it's Galarian Zigzagoon, it talks about it being like the most ancient lineage of Zigzagoon. More, primitive, even though I really don't like using that term in a biological sense, than other Zigzagoon, the normal two-tone brown shade Zigzagoons. So that would imply that the normal Zigzagoons and Linoone would be sort of more advanced, more well-adapted, because they are less ancient. That's not usually the case, but for this scenario, it works. So before we get into exactly why Linoone evolves in Galar, but nowhere else, we need one more biological definition, and that is pedomorphosis. This is a term that's used for adult animals that retain their juvenile form. The best examples that I can personally think of are salamanders that have external gills, things like the axolotl and mud puppy. Because nearly all, there are some exceptions, but nearly all larval salamanders have external gills. But somewhere along the lines, in the lineage of these salamanders that do have external gills, there was some kind of mutation that let them keep their gills, that made them so they didn't go away, and that provided some kind of advantage to them, likely being able to retain and get more oxygen from the water. And that was advantageous, so they were better at, reproducing, and because they had this mutation, they passed it on to their children. And that's how some of these externally gilled salamanders have evolved. And that phenomenon, I think, is exactly what is going on in the difference between Galarian Linoone and regular Linoone. Instead of staying in its, most basic form, the larval form, if you will, as a Zigzagoon, it goes to its juvenile form in Linoone, and doesn't progress to its full adult form in Obstagoon. And I think that this might be because of climate. So, the Galar region is, from what we can tell, a much, much cooler climate, especially compared to Hoenn. And in general, larger-bodied organisms don't do very well where it's really warm, because, they generate a lot of heat, especially in mammals. They generate a lot of heat, and excess heat will kill you much, much faster than excess cold. So because the climate in Galar is cooler, that allows Linoone to progress into its final form, which gives it an advantage, because clearly, it's now got use of hands. It seems like it's bigger and tougher, and seems like it's, just a lot more physically impressive, compared to in, say, Hoenn, where the climate's warmer. If Linoone were to evolve, or metamorphose, into Obstagoon, like a normal version of Obstagoon, it might not be as successful at reproducing in the wild, because Obstagoon might not be able to function as well because it gets too hot. It looks rather shaggy and looks like it has a decent amount of sort of like an armor. So that might make it too hot and decrease its chances of reproducing. So because of this, I think over the generations, Linoone just stopped evolving and developed the ability to basically just become the adult of its species. And something that I thought about while I was thinking of this was, well, how would that really work? Because, outside of the world of Pokemon, because we know every Pokemon can reproduce, with the exception of, legendaries and baby Pokemon, and for some reason, Nidorina and Nidoqueen. But every Pokemon can reproduce, but normally, a juvenile form, like Linoone would not be able to reproduce. And then I thought, well, the Mud Puppies and Axolotls somehow made it work, so why can't Linoone? So, long story short, Obstagoon is only present in Galar and, does not come from normal Linoone because it would be too warm. Over the generations, Linoone just stopped evolving in order to be able to better reproduce and not die from overheating. That's my take on it, but I want to know yours. Why do you think Galarian Linoone can evolve, but normal Linoone can't? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts just on the last trailer in general between the Pokemon Morpeko, Galarian Weezing, who is incredible. I love Galarian Weezing's design. They couldn't make a more British Pokemon if they tried. As well as the new rivals. It's sort of interesting. I'm a big fan of the two new rivals that were introduced, Marnie and Bed? I don't really know how to say his name, but he looks super cool. Let me know your thoughts on the entire trailer down below. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Pallet_U to keep up on all things Pokemon science, and as always, there's a time and place for everything.